Now we see Blanche descend into the real tragedy. The final two scenes of the play, utter tragedy. Um, she's been rejected by Mitch. He's attempted to rape her. She's screamed fire to rid herself of him. And she's left in the house and she's been drinking steadily. She's quite drunk. And she's really in fantasy and play. And to emphasize this, Williams has her bring out her trunk, okay? And everything's thrown out of it. There's a flowery dress. And she's packing because she knows she has to leave here. But she's with a hysterical exhilaration as she's decked out in soiled, crumpled white satin evening gown and a pair of scuffed silver slippers with brilliants or rhinestones set in their heels, like fake diamonds. Now she is placing the rhinestone tiara, like crown, fake diamond crown, on her head before the mirror of the dressing table and murmuring excitedly as if to a group of spectral, ghostly admirers. I mean, the image that he paints here is horrific, comic. It would be comic, except she's so sad. It's so pathetic. She's so delusional, so drunk, so sad. That it could be played comically, but I think it's really Blanche fully in the fantasy and delusions of her mind. How about taking a swim, a moonlight swim at the old rock quarry? If anybody's sober enough to drive a car, best way in the world to stop your head buzzing. Only you've got to be careful to dive where the deep pool is. If you hit a rock, I mean, even in the madness, there's something powerful. If you hit your rock, you don't come up. I mean, it's over. You die. Firstly, I mean, she's married at 16. This is a kind of fantasy, it seems, she has about being with the other kids at midnight swimming, getting drunk, not being caught in the tragedy of her marriage and the suicide. Trembling, she lifts the hand mirror for closer inspection. She wants to take a look at herself. And she catches her breath and slams the mirror face down. The glass cracks. She doesn't want to see herself. She doesn't like what she sees. Stanley appears around the corner of the building. He still has that vivid green silk bowling shirt as he rounds the corner. The honky-tonk music is heard. It continues softly through the scene. So that's the country music. He enters the kitchen slamming the door. He peers in and he gives a low whistle. He's had a few drinks on the way and has brought a quart beer bottles home with him. So he's celebrating. He's in a mood of joy. How's my sister? Not how's your wife, or not even how's Stella. How's my sister? Doing okay. That's one of those enigmatic things he says. What is happening? How's the baby? The baby won't come before morning, so they told me to go home. Does that mean we're to be alone in here? Her fear about this is right from the outset. Yep, just you and me, Blanche, unless you got somebody hid under the bed. What have you got those fine feathers for? What do you got those? Wait, I'm just gonna close this door. He notices right away how mad she looks. He notices immediately. And she goes further into more fantasy. Oh yeah, a wire came, a telegram. Before the internet, of course, you'd get these telegrams. Someone could send you a text message through the radio, I guess is one way, through the telephone wires. And she got a telegram, and it was, he's taking the mick out of her a little bit. What, did you get an invitation to the fireman's ball? No, she's saying. She got a cruise in a Caribbean yacht. And she was so surprised. It came like a bolt from the blue. Indeed it did, because it's imaginary. Right? So, of course, it came from nowhere. But if I pushed imaginary a little bit further, isn't it? Her fantasies are a way of protecting her from reality. You know, she's been rejected by Mitch. She's been kicked out of this house. She has nowhere to go. No money, nothing. She's really at the end of the line. And what is left for her but her fantasy world? Oh, it's Shep Huntley again, saying that, that inviting me on a cruise to the Caribbean. The problem is clothes. I'm just going through my clothes to see if I have anything for the tropics. And he's really making fun of her. You came up with that gorgeous diamond tiara. The mockery is there, but he doesn't have to lean into it too much. She is such a state. It's taking care of it herself. It's only rhinestones. Oh, I thought it was Tiffany diamonds. Back to that class and reading quality, what he couldn't notice in the second scene, he now knows is all fake. So he doesn't just let her go, he keeps on with it. Just when you thought my luck had begun to fail me. Yeah. You get this millionaire from Miami. Yeah. No. Dallas. Dallas, where the gold spouts out of the ground. That's oil, but the imagery, the poetry, she's such a fantasist that she's almost an artist. So her imagery is very particular. Oh, so he's from somewhere, as if not from nowhere. Now, earlier, he'd unbuttoned his shirt. Now he starts removing it, and she says she's pulling an end to this. Close the curtains before you undress any further. There is this tension and fear here of what's coming. He doesn't obey. That's all I'm going to undress right now. Seen a bottle opener? He tells a strange story about a cousin who could open beer bottles with his teeth until he pulled out his 2 teeth. And then he was so ashamed, he used to sneak out of the house when company came. I think whether he realizes it or not, this is a comment on Blanche. Blanche may not have her front teeth out, but her one trick, her ability to create this image, it's over now, and it's time. I mean, I've always wondered about this, why this digression, but it does comment on the main action. Unlike the Coke foaming up, this is a foaming up that's a celebration. I think there is a contrast, of course, with the Coke. I think that it is a way for him to be happy. I think it also could potentially suggest something phallic and sexual as well. I don't think that's too heavy-handed an interpretation, but I wouldn't run that down too much either. Look, should we just have a drunk and make it a loving cup? She won't do that. Well, you got an oil millionaire and I have a baby, so we had a big day, both of us. He goes and he pulls out a new prop, the silk pajamas. His favorite silk pajamas that he wore on his wedding day. And he's anticipating having a son. And when they have a son, he's going to fly his pajamas and wave them like a flag. Now, I really want to emphasize that he doesn't know he's going to have a son. And we don't know what they have. Yes, his child is dressed in blue, but the blue also resonates with Blanche in the last scene. And it's just interesting how much Stanley's fixated on having a boy and how much he's going to celebrate. Blanche twists it up. She's still poking, the vulgarity of him is something she's responding to. She's saying she wants privacy. and it'll be so divine and amazing, and she'll cry, weep with joy. And he says, oh, is he not going to interfere with you? And, the language is interesting. I mean, he means sex, but why does he say interfere, as in get in the way, or, I guess violate her privacy, perhaps she means. And she gets more formal, and she says, no, it's not like that. It's not what you are thinking or have in your mind. He respects me. Companionship. Wealthy people get lonely. And she keeps going on to one of her mini rants. I'm cultivated. I am smart. I have breeding. I can enrich a man's life. I have value, she says. She has value. Physical beauty, okay, it's going. She's obsessed with it fading. It's transitory. But beauty of the mind and richness of spirit, tenderness of heart, these increase with the years. Why should I be called a destitute, broke woman when I can have all these treasures locked in my heart? I'm a very, very rich woman, but I've been foolish. She borrows a biblical phrase, casting my pearls before swine, giving my gifts to those who don't appreciate. And it's not just you that's a swine or a pig. It's Mitch. She says he came back. He returned with a box of roses to beg my forgiveness. Beg my forgiveness. Because the thing that she will not forgive, and this is so crucial, is deliberate cruelty. It's not forgivable. It's not something that you can make up for. And she says she was done with him. And she goes further to say, we're too different. Our backgrounds are incompatible. And, they have to be realistic. So she's talking about class and background. She's mythologizing what's happened between them. Stanley calls her out. Was this before or after you got the telegram? What telegram? Oh, no, after. As a matter of fact, And she gets caught in a lie. And he now starts pushing. There's no telegram. There's no millionaire. There's just goddamn thing but imagination. That's all Blanche is of the imagination. Lies, tricks, conceits. And then he really, look at you. And to us, the audience, there's no more fantasy about Blanche. There's no more hidden elegance. She looks like a crazy clown with a worn-out Mardi Gras outfit from a rag picker with a crazy tiara. You think you're a queen, but you're just nuts. And it, for me, it never worked. I was on to you from the start. Not once did you pull the wool over my, I saw you for what you were. Powder, perfume, cover the light bulb with the paper lantern. What are you, the queen of the Nile? You're just drunk. You're swilling down the liquor. Do you hear me? Don't come in here. She tries to call the operator, continuing this mythology of Shep. But it's stitched up now. She's finished. The shadows and lurid reflections and flames of the wall spaces. Her mind, these are the mind's projections. And now, and you don't get this in the radio play, and you don't get this so much in the movie, but you have to think about, what did Williams want? This plastic theater, this three-dimensional theater. The walls become transparent, and you see a prostitute has rolled a drunkard or robbed a drunkard. And then he's followed her, and there's a struggle, and a police whistle breaks it up. This is the atmosphere where she is. This is this world she's come into. Following from this, a woman appears around the corner with a sequin bag which the prostitute had dropped. She's rooting, I love that verb, excitedly through it. it's a robbery, deception, poverty. Maybe this is the life that she'll be stuck in. Maybe this is what Blanche's future will be. She has no money. I mean, in terms of AO3, think of a woman's financial prospects. They are limited, to say the least. She presses her knuckles to her lips. She's frightened, truly. Horrified. Horror of this. Upper, never mind long distance. There isn't time, sticks out. I want to... Caught in a trap. She's in it. The bathroom door is thrown open and Stanley comes out in his silk pajamas. He grins at her as he knots the tasseled sash. He's like a sultan or something. She gasps and backs away from the phone. He stares at her for a count of 10. That's a long stare. That is a long stare. You left the phone off the hook. He crosses to it deliberately and puts it back. After he's replaced it, he stares at her again. His mouth slowly curving into a grin. I mean, that is menace. That is the Cheshire Cat. There's something really horrible. Barely audible blue piano begins to drum louder. The sound of it turns the roar of an approaching locomotive. All the sounds of this place. Let me get by you. She wants out. She wants out. She knows what's coming. Go ahead. Stand over there. You get plenty of room to walk by me now. Not with you there, but I've got to get out somehow. She's trapped. Metaphorically. Literally. Trapped. You think I'd interfere with you? And he now uses this language he's already used before. He's had a few. He's drunk. But his child's had a baby. This is his sister's. This is his wife's sister. This is a woman who's completely psychologically unhinged, who looks ridiculous in this scene. And, the music continues. She's confused. The inhuman jungle voices rise up. Remember all that she said about the apes and the animals. And now this madness in her is just this fear, this hysteria. She's biting he takes a step forward, biting his tongue, which protrudes between his lips. Particularly perverse presentation of Stanley. Softly. Come to think of it. Maybe you wouldn't be bad to interfere with. I mean, we're talking about sex, rape, brutal villainy, harshness, something, the whole tragedy is just aiming to this moment, this crescendo of scene 10, which has a denouement, but yet another tragedy in scene 11. You don't think it'll get worse, but it actually does for me. She's trying to pull away. Stay back, don't you come towards me, another step or what? Some awful thing will happen. And, we have a tradition. We have a Cassandra, a woman who's anticipating the future. And we don't know if it's true or not, but it's definitely true for her. This is the end of her mind. But maybe it's a curse on him as well. But this line sticks out. And when you don't, I'm in danger. She's in trouble. She smashes a bottle, clutching the broken top. What'd you do that for? So I could twist the broken end in your face. Look, she's defending herself. And those critics that suggest that maybe she actually wants Stanley, I think it's a hard sell, and I don't think you have to be a feminist critic to pull that. I think there might be some kind of electricity or a recognition of, he's the kind of guy you date when you got the blue devils in you, or like the devil in you, I think she says to Stella in scene 4. But this is not a guy she wants to be with. And she is really ready to hurt him. But she's weak, and her mind is undone. And he won't have it, and he's much stronger. And he says, so you want some roughhouse? All right, let's have roughhouse. So this again links back to his notions of sexuality and dominance and what it is that, you know, people expect. And there's a coded behavior here. Her defense is really a kind of beginning of an initiation of a violent sexual encounter, which he's used to, which he's referring to as roughhouse. He springs towards her. She cries out, strikes at him. She tries, but he catches her. Tiger, tiger! Drop the bottle top. I mean, this is ambiguously sexual and animal. I mean, he's usually the animal, so it's an odd one. We've had this date with each other from the beginning, and I think the tragedy was, you know, the tragedy was going to be from the start. She moans, the bottle top falls, she sinks to her knees, she gives up. It's over. She surrenders. He picks up her inert figure and carries her to the bed, echoing what he does for Stella. The hot trumpet and drums from the Four Deuces sound loudly. The jazz music, again, counterpointing this tragic encounter.